Okay, sorry, Sherry. Go ahead.
Okay, so
So okay,
about
I'm just going to start over. So go
okay,
ahead. You worked for the IRS now for 7 years. You said,
right from 1988 to 1995.
and then I right. So my question to you was if it was the Bill Conklin challenge of $50,000 to find the law that says you have to pay an income tax.
Well, no, that was a part of it, but even before that, people started to approach me back in 1999 with the notion that they couldn't find a law that required anybody to file and pay. Now, I wasn't really paying attention at the time. I wasn't just dismissing them, but I was so busy doing other things. And along 2000 is when We the People Foundation for Constitutional Education, headed up by in Washington, started to put out newspapers. And in the USA Today, that's where Bill Conklin's challenge was. So that was a part of it. Once I saw that, as opposed to just putting it on the back burner, I started doing the research. So he was the one that kind of made me, get off the chair and started doing the research. And as I did that, it opened up a whole new world, because it wasn't just the income tax. It was the Federal Reserve. It was the pharmaceuticals. It was the agriculture. Everything that they're doing to us just came to light at that time. So, your first reaction is shock and awe. The second one is anger.
Right.
And I'm not the type of person that necessarily physically takes out anger. So I started explaining to people and telling people my findings. I never did tell anybody to file or not to file. I never did tell anybody to pay or not to pay. What I did was tell them to do their own research. Don't even listen to me, but don't listen to anybody else either. Just do their own research and figure out what to do concerning their own families.
And so, I mean, people obviously, started to not pay income taxes.
Well, there are a lot of people that don't.
Right.
It's just they're not gonna be able to go after everybody. They have a specific set of people, what they call prosecutable and non-prosecutable. The ones that they want are people that make six figures or more, or somebody that is very, very outspoken, like me and Joe Bannister.
Right.
Just so happened that at the time that I started to speak out about the misapplication of the income tax, I was making six figures and I was a former IRS agent. So they definitely targeted me along with others.
I actually did have both Joe Bannister, who I was trying to get him for a long time, and I got to meet Joe last summer down protesting at Bilderberg with Alex Jones was down there. That was actually 2012, I believe, the summer of 2012. So I met Joe Bannister then, and a few months back, him and Marcy Brooks were together, who hadn't spoken in a while, and so then they kind of got to join up on this show some months back, and it was the America Freedom to Fascism documentary, which I personally thought was really, really good, and I tell everybody to watch it. I mean, it's just a matter really of getting this information out and spreading the word. It's people, they like you were listening to the pod with you and Alex Jones and talking about how afraid the people are.
And that's still the case, Kat. I don't know. I mean, it's getting better, but people know something's wrong, and they would rather stay in the boat than put a toe in the water, because they don't want to have to come up with situations that are going to cause them to get out of their comfort zones. And the movie, when it came out back in 2004 or so, it was really kind of hard to get people to watch it. But now you wouldn't believe the number of people that contact me on a weekly basis that are just now seeing that 10-year-old movie and saying, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
didn't know all this.
Right.
Because they're starting to pull their heads out of the sand, because one lady told me, well, it doesn't have anything to do with me. It's not affecting me. But now, with the economy the way it is and them about to crash the dollar, everybody's paying attention.
I mean, to think that this stuff doesn't affect people, again, is just another form of denial, because of course it's affecting you.
You know, the way they look at it, or used to look at it, is that if it wasn't right up at their front door and it was something that was controversial, they didn't want to have anything to do with it. Like people that used to tell me things like, oh, I'm not going to mess with the IRS, and, you know, as long as I do what they say, then I'm going to be okay. But that's not true, because I know tens of 20, 30, 40 people that have been audited that, you know, weren't in a protest mode. They just, you know, got audited, and they don't understand that a government that's broke is going to come after you whatever way they can come after you.
Right. Okay, so I have, let's talk a little bit about Irwin Schiff, this poor man who has been in jail for quite some time now. I mean, who's so dedicated to getting this information out to the people, and he's probably going to be in jail until he passes away.
I don't like to talk about Irwin because it just makes me cry, because
Exactly.
Irwin is, you know, he's one of the forerunners. He's one of the fathers in the movement, and he had all. And actually, even before the newspapers in 2000, somebody gave me one of Irwin's books. It was a little yellow book called How Not to Pay the Income Tax. And I started reading that book, and it was making so much sense. And I thought, you know, originally when I picked it up, oh, this is going to be a bunch of nonsense. And as I looked in that book, it, you know, really struck me that this man had done his research, and the way he was railroaded is, you know, there's going to be a day of reckoning at some point for the people who do these things. I mean, it's the court systems are rigged. The judges, from what I've heard from even a lawyer, has told me that they go to meetings to make sure that they understand how to deal with people that are going up against the income tax. Because you could be, in my case, I am in Atlanta, and I'm downtown at the Federal Building dealing with my situation back in 2007, 2008. A misdemeanor called willful failure to file tax returns. Well, first of all, there are 3 criteria that I would have had to meet in order to be guilty. Number 1, I did not file, which is true, but the other 2 were not true. That I knew I had to file, and I did not pay. Well, I knew, based on the research that I did, that me and millions of other people are not liable. So, although it was a misdemeanor, the judge sentenced me to 4 consecutive years. And in a different room down the hall, there's this rapper person named T.I. that had already had a felony, that got another felony, got a slap on the wrist, got house arrest, got found out in his house where he had a weapon, violated that, and got another slap on the wrist from community service. So you can make lewd music, you can have guns in your house when you're not supposed to, you can talk about women and call them names and all that, and it's okay. But when you start questioning what's going on with the money and people's resources, then you get slapped down hard. I've heard of some rape cases. This guy raped a 5-year-old girl, and he got less time than I did. So it's about the money. If you start talking about the money, then they don't like that. So Irwin is one of those that had a lot of ammunition. He had his books, the Federal Mafia and all that, to show, to back up what he was saying. And it's the message that you get concerning what happened to Irwin is, I don't care if he's right. If you do this like he says, then you're going to get locked up. You're going to lose your physical freedom.
I mean, I want to just kind of pause and like let it be digested what you just said, because I mean, So, right, this guy is right in what he's writing in his books, and it doesn't matter.
Correct.
I mean,
correct.
That and you know yourself who spent 3 years in jail for exposing the fact. So give the details exactly. There is no law that says you have to pay income tax.
Most Americans that live and work in the 50 states. I have not found the law. Still haven't found it. Don't know anybody that's found it. They, they put little regulations here and there, and they split them up. And when you put it all together, people that are foreigners, non-resident aliens, foreign corporations, and other countries, the Constitution says that for the privilege of dealing with the United States, like a country like China is supposed to be giving us tariffs, if you want to call it that. But since they've been given most favored nation status, they don't have to pay, but they're taking money from us. Our labor is ours. The Constitution, exactly. The Declaration says that we have the right to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And when I can't come over to your house and cut your grass, and you give me $50 for cutting your grass, that's an even exchange because I've used my arms, legs, and my brain to get your grass cut.
That's right.
When there is no definition of income in the Internal Revenue Code, the definition of income comes from the Supreme Court, and it is corporate profits. So when Walmart, and I'm breaking these numbers down really low, when Walmart makes $100,000 a year, but they have $50,000 in expenses, then they only pay tax on the $50,000, not the $100,000. But when you make $100,000 a year, they want you to pay tax on the $100,000. They don't let you deduct your brain and your time and your energy and your all these things that you put into your ability to make the $100,000. So it's all wrong, and it's evil on so many different levels. But the point that I'm trying to make is, and what you brought it up, it doesn't matter whether we scream at the top of our lungs. They are not going to listen to the verbiage. I don't know what it's going to take I think it's going to take a collapse for in a total reset, because the system is broken. There's no fixing. It's time to shovel it off the table into the garbage can and start from scratch.
So I also wanted to talk about the Federal Reserve, which I've known for some years now that it's a private, for-profit, not a federal bank, a government bank like most people think. And what you were just talking about, working and income tax and fair trade. If people's income, is being taxed, then it's inevitable that they're being extracted. It's like human beings, it's like extraction, like what Shell is now doing in the Arctic and just drilling, and it's just robbing resources from people and then giving them less than what they actually deserve. So people are literally being fracked, for lack of a better word that I can't think of. Human fracking.
That's true. If taking 100% of someone's labor is slavery, at what percentage is it not slavery? There are two resources that I want to mention. Of course, most of your listeners probably know about Ed Griffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Right.
Where all this evil was contrived at Jekyll Island, Georgia, where the Internal Revenue Service and the Federal Reserve were birthed. And there's another one called The Money Masters by Bill Still.
Yeah,
and it goes even further back to the Rothschilds and all those that contrived this evil to take our resources.
Right.
So the facts are there that this has been done. The facts are there. It's been done. This country was running fine without the income tax, but they didn't have the power that they want. The income tax gives, it's a redistribution of wealth that gives certain people, certain elites, as they call themselves, power over the people. So as long as the people submit to this, it's going to continue to happen. If the people rebel, they have the consequences are scary to a lot of people, like going to prison. I mean, that was something that way in the back of my head I knew could happen, but I was so confident that I could get 12 thinking people to see that this was a farce, and that was very naive on my behalf, because people, the way that the court went, the prosecution kept telling them how much money I made, and they did not focus on the law. And see, that was my downfall. I thought that, you know, as long as I could explain the law, then they would, you know, at least one person would be on my side and be able to have a hung jury. But the prosecution kept telling how much money I made, and the judge would not let me talk about the law. She said it was her privilege and not mine. And you know, there's a thing called jury nullification that was not in place. I did not get the chance to tell them the law. They did not get a chance to see the law, and they were too afraid. As a matter of fact, the question that I wanted to ask the jury, or at least have the attorney ask the jury during jury selection, was, would you be afraid to acquit Miss Jackson for fear of being audited or retaliated against by the IRS? I am pretty sure, Kat, that at least 90% of the hands in that jury pool would have gone up, and then that would have been the end of that.
Right. So, I mean, I'm getting a question on the Awake Radio chat asking if Sherry recommends that people not pay their taxes, but you don't recommend.
Yeah, I don't recommend anything. I don't give advice at all. All I tell people to do is do their research. At this point,
right,
the way to keep more of what you earn is to have your own home-based business. Because if you have a home-based business, you, unlike other people, can go ahead and take deductions for things like your cell phone, business use of your home, your children working for you, mileage back and forth, just tons. The same things that corporations do, you can do. So if you have a small home-based business, and let's say you make in 1 year, your first year you make $7,000, your mileage alone could be $5,000, and you have a loss, even though you brought in $7,000. The average home-based business, per the Small Business Administration, is bringing in $37,000 a year, and that's probably full-time people. But doing the same things, making money at home, and then getting a chance to write off everything but the kitchen sink is what I do recommend for people.
And I wanted to, because I remember in America, Freedom to Fascism, Aaron Russo was speaking with the guy from the IRS and really trying to kind of narrow it down about, like the 14th Amendment, like it was never ratified. So, exactly, I mean, are you like aware of why there is no law, or like, how do they get the people to think that there is a law?
Well, yeah, they did. They write things in a certain way, very diabolical. And I think that during the war, when they had the little war tax, and it was like between 1% and 3%, they started collecting that money from people's paychecks. And there was a meeting, and I think D.B. Kidd has a little booklet about it at Brentwood, where they just decided, hey, we want to continue to get this money.
Exactly.
So they write up.
Unbelievable.
They write up all this stuff, and then they hold guns to your head if you don't follow it. And that's the case. That's why people are being compliant, because either prison or confiscation of their things that they've worked for, like their homes, is a frightful thing for people. And that's why a lot of people, Kat, I don't know if you talked about this on any of your shows, but about 300,000 people a year are leaving this country. And Kat, it's not the broke people. It's not the poor people. The rich people are leaving. We are having a brain drain in this country because people are fed up with what's going on. And the ones that have resources, they are discontinuing to deal with it. And even some of those 300,000, at least maybe 1% of those are actually giving up their citizenship.
Where are they going? That's what I'm wondering.
They're going to different. Let's say, for the sake of argument, if you can prove that you have Italian roots or Irish roots, if you can prove that, then you can get citizenship in some of the European countries over there. Other countries have economic citizenship, where if you have enough money, you can pay them and you can get a passport and citizenship. Other countries have residency programs, where if you stay in their country for a certain amount of years, and some of them have business residency, where if you come and open a business and hire 3 people from that country for at least a year, then you get your residency, and then you work 3 to 5 years towards your citizenship, depending on what country. I know people that are living like queens and kings in Panama and Ecuador and Chile, a lot of South American countries. I don't know anybody personally, but I know that there are people that are going over to the European countries because they were able to prove down the line their grandparents or great-grandparents were from that country. So they're getting out of here. In other words, they're getting out of Dodge.
And I just wanted to point out that in your case, they needed a Marcy Brooks in the jury in your case because like in the America Freedom to Fascism, when Marcy Brooks was talking about the judge just saying the law is as I give it to you, and you have everything you need, when they still did not have the law. And, so what Marcy and the rest of those jurors did is not, your typical jury.
That's true. In Joe's jury, I was out at Joe's trial. I spent 2 weeks out in Sacramento at his trial, and he had a thinking jury also. And the evidence that came forth, they just could not consciously convict Joe because he came off looking like he is, which is, a trustworthy man. And even going back to talking to Federal Express. I don't know why I'm at a loss of names right now, but Federal Express pilot, she basically said that there was one juror that swung everybody else. But in my case, they had to win. They had lost Joe's case. They had lost Tommy Cryer's case, all in the same period of time, and they just couldn't lose another case. And they sent people down from Washington, D.C. to prosecute me. And the jury pool came from outside of the city of Atlanta, all of the far suburbs, because I had been on radio and on free TV within the city of Atlanta. So, and also there were lots of supporters that came to my trial. One guy rushed up to me and the attorney and said, I just heard the bailiff, as he was escorting the jury back into the room, say to the jury, if I gotta pay, she gotta pay. But there was no way that we could prove that happened. So fear and between the fear of the government and the prosecuting attorney continuously telling the jury that I made 6 figures in those years, they turned them into, haters, basically. She makes all that money and she's not paying, and I'm not making that much, or I am and I've got to pay. And so that's what they were drilling into their heads, nothing to do with the law. But again, another thing I wanted to mention, I had been taught a long time ago that we have brought ourselves into contracts by signing a Social Security card, a driver's license, and a bank signature card.
And our birth certificate.
Well, the first 3 government exhibits were my Social Security card, my driver's license, and my bank signature card. First 3. How about that? But, when one person knows about the contract and another one doesn't, it's still null and void. But they have the guns, and they put people in jail. They take their houses and their cars. They separate families, all that, and people don't want that, so they comply. And at some point or another, the burden is gonna be too big because people, when this dollar thing crashes or it's no longer gonna be the reserve currency and the dollar, when we become a third world country, then I don't know if it's gonna be too late. The smart people are gonna be gone. Oprah has her island, and Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt and Justin Bieber and all these people I'm hearing about getting property overseas. The people with money are gonna be gone, and they're gonna leave us over here.
Yep. And I wanted to ask the American people, I mean, do they really want to be bullied? I mean, is that the country that the America that you want to live in, where you're just being bullied and forced? And, I mean, what kind of a way is that to live in just complete abuse?
Well, I've been to other countries and I've seen news stories because I don't watch the news here. I don't even have TV, Cat. I have a television with Netflix.
Right, that's what I have. That's what I have.
You look at other countries and, when they get angry, they'll sit in the street. They will not move. They'll sit in the middle of the street. They will stop traffic. They will not let people in or out of the federal buildings. We do nothing like that. The little girl in Tiananmen Square that got run over by the tank, I don't know. We've just gotten jelly back over here in the United States, and until something changes, which I don't know whether it will, then we're going to be a complacent, subservient group of slaves. It doesn't matter whether you're black, white, green, purple, polka dot. It doesn't matter what color you are. We're slaves, and they know it. They don't even care about color. They care about keeping us in the slavery and the sheeple corral. That's what they care about, and that's what they're doing. And if we break out, somebody like me or Joe breaks out, then they try to either shoot us or put us back in the corral.
I've been saying stuff for a really, really long time myself. And, at a young age, I was bashed down for telling the truth. It was like in your interview with Alex Jones, like he was even saying it too. It's like if you're not surrounded by people that, want you to do good, like this, you could feel the people around you didn't want you to do good.
Right. Right. I mean, it's in my environment. My family has always been encouraging. The people around me, if they were afraid, they didn't say anything. I had supporters when I was in prison. The people supported me like you wouldn't believe. I mean, somebody would say, "Hey, they're feeding Sherry some really bad food in there," and people just fill up my account. It was amazing how there are people here in America. In the United States that care. There are, but there are not enough of them. The ones that are complacent, they want to go to their 9 to 5 every day, and they want to come home and sit and watch American Idol and whatever else the heck is on the TV. But they got to wake up.
And you spoke up because you don't want your children being raped later. And so that again, like, I don't understand how that is not a motivator for people. I mean, so you're really, people are throwing their children to the wolves. They are literally having children to just feed to the wolves. I hate to use animals as a
why.
Because wolves are like probably more have more humanity than the IRS and the
hyenas. Hyenas.
Anyway,
the children that are being born right now are at least $100,000 in debt when they're born, and that does not include the student loans and all that other stuff, because that's a whole other industry that's ripping people off and putting people into slavery. School should not cost $17,000 to $40,000 a year. There's no way. But they come out of school with $100,000 debts, and now they're working in banks as tellers next to people with a high school diploma. So this is all by design. The idiocracy of what's going on in this country could not be a mistake. It's all by design, Kat.
Exactly. So I'm being told on the Awake Radio chat from Zeets, please tell Sherry we love her.
Oh, thank you. I mean, we got to stick together. Those of us that know the truth, we got to stick together. We got to. Another thing is, right now in this country, I know you've noticed the stock market. They tried to prop it up today, but it fell anyway. It's like I felt like they were trying to pick up a weight that was too big, and they tried to hold it up as long as they could, and have a smile on their face and have a positive 200. But at the end of the day, this thing is about to go down. So I'm telling people, you need to get some gold. You need to get a garden. You need to have some food stored up. You need to have water. Right. And if, in case they kick the can down the road a little bit further, it's okay for you to have those things. Just use them.
You got to get in touch with reality. I mean, the system is literally functioning on some, virtual reality that, people who have hijacked reality and just created this complete, fakery that so many people have bought into. But I don't know. I can't understand. I never followed it. I never followed it. I tried telling people things a long time ago, and they didn't listen. And, you have to be in touch with things that are real because, natural law can't be bought. You can't just continuously be propping up like this fake system and think that, the truth is not going to be revealed.
That's true. Denial is not going to feed you when this thing goes down. and people that are prepared are also prepared to defend what they have. So if you're in a position right now where you're thinking, well, nothing's going to happen, there's a story from a long time ago about a boy that cried wolf. And I know that for maybe even a decade or more, people have been talking about a crash or something is going to happen or we're going to get, we're going to get bombed or all these other things. And people now have gotten to the point where, I've heard that before and they shrug their shoulders. But at this point, our economy is not sustainable. The interest on the debt has gotten to the point where we can't sustain that, nor Social Security and the Defense Department, all that. So there's going to be a crash. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Right. And I liken it unto when we were little and we used to play musical chairs.
Yeah.
But I used to be serious about the musical chairs, and even if there were 15 people going around the chairs, I would make sure that as the music was going, I would carefully step so that I would be in front of a chair at every second that I could. And, I won musical chairs a lot, but at this point, people are, smelling the roses and blowing bubbles and they're not paying attention. And when the music stops, if they don't have a chair, they're going to be floored and then they're going to, be chaos. It's going to be chaos. And I'm not an alarmist, but this thing is going to happen at some point or another. And what I do tell people, I'm sounding the alarm. Get your house in order. Get out of debt. Stop creating debt. Forget about 401ks, IRAs, and mutual funds. The money will not be there for you. Forget about the Social Security. You will not have Social Security. As I just sent out a video not too long ago, what you have to do right now is figure out how to make sure that when things go bad, when the wheels come off, or when the excrement hits the portable cooling device, you and your family are going to be okay. And you're not going to, you're not going to be, I don't care if you are 1 mile from the grocery store, you're not necessarily getting anything from there. You got to figure that stuff out. And smart Americans are doing that. The ones that are sitting up in front of the electronic income reducer are not doing that, evidently.
Okay, so I wanted to refer to, did you know that you're a slave? That's on your blog. It's from July of 2002, but I actually posted it for the to promote you being on this show.
Oh my gosh, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, but again, it's just so relevant, and it's information that a lot of people do not know. So I'm just gonna, let's see. Okay, so did you know the Federal Reserve is a private for-profit organization? Did you know the U.S. government permits the Fed to create money out of thin air with no gold backing or backed by anything. Did you know that the Fed loans the money to the U.S. government at interest? And the interest makes up the federal debt. Have you wondered why the U.S. government does not print the money itself and eliminate paying interest to the private for-profit Fed? Did you know that 1999 payments to the private Fed totaled, oh God, what is that number? Is that 1 trillion? No,
It could.
I mean,
It could be.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 12 zeros. No, 9 zeros, sorry. That is over $36 million an hour. Do you realize that because of the above, the children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren of the Fed owners will never have to work a day in their lives while you work 12 hours a day to make ends meet? So and then it starts to talk about the Grace Commission, 1984, January 15th, the Grace Commission, requested by President Reagan, found that 100% of what is collected is absorbed solely by interest on the federal debt. All individual income tax revenues are gone before 1 nickel is spent on service taxpayers expect from government. Right. So it's constant. The debt is constant, and it's made that way on purpose, that it can never be paid off.
Yeah, because the notes, the Federal Reserve notes, are actually debt. So people just have to do a little bit of research to find out what's going on, but they're too afraid to research. They're not showing up at the revolution. They're not showing up. They want to bury all that like it's going to go away. It's like out of sight, out of mind, but that's not the case, because it's affecting people when, let's say 100 years ago, you could get 400, 500, 600 loaves of bread with an ounce of gold, and a dollar would get you several loaves. But now, an ounce of gold will get you a good 800 or 900 loaves of bread, but a dollar will get you 1/4 of a loaf of bread. The dollar is gone, for all intents and purposes, and it'll finally lie down pretty soon, because other countries are no longer trading in the dollars. Some of them are trading in gold. Some of them are trading in whatever their currencies are. Some of them are trading in oil. It can't last forever. And some people don't care. Some people say, well, whatever happens, I hope it happens after I die.
Yeah.
Those are the ones, I guess, that don't really care what happens to their children. I don't know.
Yep. And so it talks about, on this page, Freedom Outpost. There's an article, ex-IRS agent Sherry Peel Jackson exposes IRS as biggest fraud of all. I mean, it's from 2013, but again, there's just so much information that people are not aware of. And it talks about Rockefeller and the major media. Some people are getting to know a lot of these things even more, that the Fed controls Fox News. I think Fox was rated one of the worst news. So to get this information, people need to go to the We the People Foundation.
They need to go outside of our propaganda. They need to look at other papers like Al Jazeera and papers over in other countries, and see what's really going on outside of our bubble, because what you're getting in news is not the truth most of the time, and paying attention to what's not true is not wise.
Yeah, this is it's not going to be very pretty when the avalanche comes. I wanted to ask about, there's a couple of missing videos. It says ex-IRS agent exposes the IRS, and then when you try to click on these two videos, they've been removed from this page. I wonder why that is. The Freedom Outpost. But anyway, so the Grace Commission report that was presented to Congress in January of 1984, the report claimed that if its recommendations were followed, $424 billion could be saved in 3 years, rising to $1.9 trillion per year by the year 2000. It estimated that the national debt without these reforms would rise to $13 trillion by 2000, while with the reforms they projected it would rise to only $2.5 trillion. Can you talk about the Grace Commission report?
Well, that was back in 1984, and it basically revealed, and it was done by businessmen, not by government people. Peter Grace was the head of the commission. That's why they call it the Grace Commission. It was asked for by President Ronald Reagan, and they were tasked to find ways to save money in government, and they did, but they were not followed. Here we are in 2015, but going back to 2008 when the stock market went down September 29th, 777.68 points in one day. Americans lost $10.2 trillion in their savings. That was the largest shift or theft of savings that has ever taken place. They used funds to give to foreign banks and to do bailouts of these large companies that were, quote unquote, too big to fail.
Right.
If they had used that money and gave it to the people with mortgages, everybody in the country could have had their mortgages paid off, and we would be building our economy. Because if I didn't have a mortgage, I could definitely do some things, in business and even maybe hire some people. But again, Kat, you have to realize that they have a different plan. Their plan has nothing to do with what we want, what we would like, or what's best for us.
Right, exactly. I mean, what do you have to say about just over the weekend they closed the Dow? It went down 500 points on Friday, and I believe they closed it on Monday.
Well, it was open on Monday. It went down 588 yesterday, and they propped it up all day today. And today it went down. They finally couldn't hold it up, and I think it was down 231. Well, the next time we have a 2008 situation, there won't be any banks because the banks don't have any money. So this debt thing is about to explode, and you won't be able to go to the bank and get money out of the ATM, nor will a teller be able to give you money. So that's just the way it is. A lot of people, Kat, right now are getting gold, and I'm involved in gold. I'm involved in a company called Carrot Bars. If you look on my website, carrotbarsforwealth.com. But people are getting it in grams so that because gold, per Peter Schiff, Irwin Schiff's son, and Mike Maloney, which is affiliated with Robert Kiyosaki, gold is going to go up to at least $3,000 an ounce. Some people say $5,000. But you don't want to take an ounce into the grocery store and try to get food. You need to take smaller denominations and silver.
I bought gold and silver. At least it has to be 3 years ago already.
Mm-hmm. When I started buying gold, it was $313 an ounce. That was in like 2000, 2001. Now it fluctuates between $1,100 and $1,800 depending on, the day. So gold has been a medium of exchange for like 6,000 years, and it's always going to be one. Forget about the dollar, forget about all these other currencies. So that's what I talk to people about: getting hard assets. If you have the funds, get you some real estate offshore somewhere, so that when the excrement does hit the port of approval device, you can get on a plane and go somewhere and just watch and wait it out. But if you don't have funds to go get real estate somewhere else, there's some other hard assets that you need to be thinking about.
Okay, so there's two things. There's a question on the Awake Radio chat. Does Sherry think we're going to have a one world currency if we don't stand up?
Yes.
Right, like the EU?
Yes, I think that's their plan. And if we don't stand up, they're going to eventually get their plan in place. Put it like that. If we don't stand up.
And so the next thing I wanted to bring up, because you did mention Bill Still before, and I was speaking with him quite a bit at one time, and what he says is that it's not what backs money, it's who controls the quantity. So it's not about money being backed by gold.
Correct. In other words, one thing that about gold is not mortgaged. No, when you have a mortgage, it has to do with dollars and other currencies. Gold is one thing that's not mortgaged.
Someone again just posted on the site that gold is at 1,146 and 95 cents, down by 9.78 today. And when people say that to me about oh, gold is down or gold is up, and I mean, I just think, it's real. I mean, gold and silver, they can't be manipulated. I mean, you can't make them grow faster than they are supposed to. You can't create it out of thin air.
If I want to be devilish, what I'm going to do is I am going to suppress the price of something so that I can buy it up while it's cheap. And then when I can no longer suppress it,
right,
and the price goes up, I'm going to have a lot of it. They have been suppressing the price of gold for some time now. All you have to do, not listen to me, but Peter Schiff and Mike Maloney, and there's some others out there, Mark Riddick, they're economists out there that are telling you, hey, China is buying up gold like crazy. Germany, India, and even, bless their hearts, Texas. I love Texas. If there's any other state I'd move to in this country, it'd be Texas. They have built their own little Fort Knox, and they want their gold back. So I'm praying that they get it, because they know that they can't trust whoever it is in New York or wherever to have their gold. They need to have their gold in Texas. So I'm rooting for Texas to get their gold. But point being, we got to stop messing around, and the dollar is going to be worth the toilet paper that's in my bathroom pretty soon.
That's right. Oh, I mean, already it's pretty much worth.
Yeah. Yeah, but it'll be open. The eyes of the general public will see it. We see it now.
I mean, I'm praying. I just keep. I mean, for the last few years now, I feel like we're kind of teetering, and I'm just waiting for it to tip just enough where, it just reaches that critical mass of people. I don't want it to tip the other way, because, I mean, then it'll be like, if not impossible to come back for it if it tips any more in the favor of the. I try not to call them elite, because I don't consider.
Yeah, right. Those that have assumed power.
Right.
Right. But we don't know. I don't know. I listen to people these days. There are more people that are thinking now and turning off the television, but there are still so many people. I mean, I live in a little neighborhood that's kind of a low-income neighborhood, and the people have no clue about what's really going on. They can tell you who won American Idol last time, or what happened on whatever these shows are, how to kill somebody and get away with it, or those kind of things. They can tell you that, but they have no clue about what's going on. And it's like, they don't, if I mention something to them, then they look at me like I have 3 heads. So I just keep my mouth closed and try to unite with people that are, have a clue.
Yeah, it is. It is really, it can be difficult, breaking through. I mean, but there's got to be a way to get this information to the people that need it. I mean, I know we can't force it on people. You can't force people to wake up.
Well, we can't go after them. I mean, The best I can do is, like, I have a blog site, sherrypeeljackson.org. I try to tell people about the blog site, but you can't help people, Kat, that don't want to be helped.
Right.
So I'm almost 53 years old now. I'm older, I'm wiser, and I'm not wasting time with people that don't really want to be helped. People that want to stay in the matrix, let them stay in the matrix. Those that want to take the red pill, come along with us. Here's the information.
again, I'm referring to this Freedom Outpost. Ex-IRS agent Sherry Peel Jackson exposes IRS as biggest fraud of all. And I'm just scrolling down. It says, what is the most obvious way that Americans could hurt the Federal Reserve and the IRS? It would be through the abolishing of the IRS, thus cutting off the revenue generating arm of the Fed. And then it talks about Ted Cruz, who wants to do that.
Also, Ron Paul did, but again, when I think twice, and I'm not exactly sure, but at least twice, the Congress has voted to eliminate the IRS, but the Senate will not do that. These power people want to continue to have slaves, so it's you know what, asking Congress and those in Washington and those elites, asking them to help us and to do right is not going to work. It has never worked. I'm going to refer you back to during the Civil Rights Movement when black people had to sit at the back of the bus. They could scream and holler and jump up and down and hold signs all they wanted to. But when they got off the bus and started walking and riding bikes and carpooling, then there was action because they dried up the money. Going another step to the Vietnam War, somebody asked the then Secretary of Defense Haig, what do you think about all these protesters out here? Alexander Haig said, let them protest as long as they pay their taxes.
Right.
So as long as people continue to be compliant, they can scream and holler and hold signs and go to Washington and all that, and all they're going to get is laughed at.
I mean, it just comes down to knowing your rights. I mean, I've had Eddie Craig from Rule of Law Radio, trying to teach people about their rights in dealing with the police. I mean, the system takes complete advantage over the fact that people are completely unaware. It's exactly the opposite. I'm just going to read at the bottom of the page. I need you to understand that things really are this corrupt. And if you try to do what Sherry Jackson and Bill Conklin did, you are risking being sent to prison. But, okay, that said, unless we have more that are willing to stand up and fight like them, then the government will continue to throw the small minority of dissenters into jail cells all over the country. We must get loud enough that they simply don't have room for all of us. But the thing is, you're going to get thrown in jail if you don't do something anyway. Like, this is what people need to understand. I mean, why wait, for it to come to you? It's like, start pushing back now, because they're going to make a criminal out of you one way or another. Like, this is what people don't understand. The more they comply, the more they're backing themselves into a corner.
No, they don't understand that. And I don't know what's going to make them see it, but they just don't see it. As long as they continue to let the electronic and intellect reducer called the television rule the great majority of their evenings when they get off work, then they're never going to see that.
I know I am. I want like ready to take my computer and start shaking it. Because it's like frustrating. It's like you want people to get it, and I guess those who are going to get it are going to get it, and those who aren't, and that's just the way that it goes. So again, Sherry Peel Jackson. Please look her up online. It's just sherrypeeljackson.com.
.org. Somebody stole.com. And when I was in prison, my husband, forgot to pay for it, and somebody stole it, and I think they got it for sale for like $16,000.
Oh, really? Oh, so yeah, I mean, get this information. Like, you have plenty of videos on YouTube that people can refer to. And please watch Aaron Russo's America, Freedom to Fascism.
Right. I am trying to start posting little videos at least every other week. I'm trying to do once a week, but I'm very busy. And then I'll be posting those on the blog site, sherrypilljackson.org, and on Facebook or, on Facebook and YouTube. But the last one I did, Social Security, maybe by Friday I'll get another one up. But I'm just trying to, since people like to watch videos and they don't like to read anymore, that's a way, Kat, that we can start getting them involved. Just try to get them to the point where they're looking at the videos.
Right. I mean, however the message has to get out. I did share your Social Security video also.
Great.
So I'm just going to keep sharing your stuff. And again, thank you, Sherry Peel Jackson.
Thank you for having me on your show, Kat.
My pleasure. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, so again, this is the end of the show. I want to encourage people to also go to my Indiegogo on Democracy Chronicles. Please fund Cat's Paws Revolutionary Journalism. It's posted on Democracy Chronicles newsletter, and I will post it on my Facebook, Cat, C-A-T, Waters with 2 T's. My YouTube channel is April Waters with 2 T's, with all of my videos. And next month, John Perkins is going to be the keynote speaker here in New York City for 9/11. Look it up at hr14.org. Thank you, and resist before it's too late.